and I was out at my required for sheriff training at our conference fair, got that completed. I don't have any really items of business for you this morning, other than discussion of a few things. First off, I've been working on, just to keep you in the loop, been working obviously on getting an updated dog boarding truck. This is the one that we have right now, the largest of it, the age of the box that's in the truck, trying to get it into a smaller half-ton pickup truck that doesn't need as much gas, because he does do a lot of driving. And we're thinking about the box that goes in the back. Now, I think when we bought that one, gosh, 16 years ago, I think we had 13,000 in that then. We did some research and just tried to do some checking. Had checked in with ED declined to do a fabrication. They turned us on to a company out of Texas that builds sliding boxes. You know, like the base of them, one was like $9,800. Once you add stuff to it, you're probably around 12. Then you have to ship it here. Then it finally hit me that we have a company right here in our own backyard in county, Adept Product in West Jeff, and they do a lot of manufacturing for Battelle for their exotic animals and everything, and had a look at the box, and he said, "Oh yeah, you can do it." That estimate come in at 15,000. Thinking about the two companies that I looked at prior to that, we're going to have 12 to 13,000 in it plus shipping anyways. They're in our backyard. Something's wrong with it. We have any issues with it. We can take it right back to that product. So I just wanted to let you know it's in a lighter weight. I don't know, the box that we have now is a real thick. I have to have the engineer's office take their large forklift and take it out of it. And the stuff that he was looking at now is a double plated aluminum. It's pretty strong, and he can fabricate it. It's lighter than the one that we have. It's on some gas. So I'm probably leaning heavily on the Adept product, and it keeps the money here. But yeah, I wanted to bring you up to speed that we're getting close, on that one. We have the vehicle now. I just didn't realize the turnaround time to get these. Even if I would say, hey, we want to buy a box out of this trailer company out of Texas, there's still 240 days turnaround. And then they take a chance to get something that not fit or fabricate it. I think it's for the money that we're spending, probably fair that we keep it local, and if we have any problems with it, we can go right back to it. Didn't know if we were on that.
You come in. You're fine. You come in. I just need to turn in a bit for this morning.
Good time.
That's at 10 in here.
The other thing I wanted to discuss, Amy, we got your email. I noticed that we have a date of our replacement of our front door. We have a little bit of time. It's what, 17?
Yeah, March.
And it looks like that we were going to try to still do our ingress egress while they're working on the front door. Should we maybe make some consideration to temporary back door or something against that?
I mean, it's an option that I thought of. Is that a holiday weekend too? Because I knew I talked with Dan about trying to schedule it.
St. Patrick's Day and spring break for all the schools.
So nothing. But that was the intention. Maybe it couldn't happen. But if it was on like a Monday when the courthouse wasn't open, that would have been ideal. But
well, maybe you guys someone could reach out to them. They can
one judge that won't be there.
If it has to be, they have to.
Making plans for
if they have to work on it, during normal business hours, we can make that. Maybe you could check with the company, let me know. We can come up with like a temporary alternative, screening or something. Anyways, I just want to bring it to your attention that I would be willing to, help or whatever, move staff around, whatever we would need to do to make that happen. And last thing, I know you were going to touch on some things, Rob, and I wanted to circle back around to as we talk is the repairing of the roof of the sheriff's office. I know back when Dan was first hired, we've had buckets in our attics, water coming down through. Dan has reached out to several companies trying to get it fixed. It kind of came to the point where, I've even approached your honorable board in regards to the condition of the sheriff's office. I was able to get a company respond, give me that estimate and fix the roof. I know it didn't fall in the guidelines of your policy yet. Well, I don't have this in guidelines. That's why I said, I need to get this fixed. Admission about, could possibly pay it with an outside account. Well, that's not true. The only way I could pay with an outside account is if your honorable board disagreed to pay the bill for the fixing of the roof. So I guess I wanted to talk with you guys this morning a little bit about this bill for fixing the roof for the sheriff.
Are you talking old replacement, new shingles?
No, they replaced a rubber roof, a portion of the rubber roof. It was like $6,000 when they did it. I think the estimates that Daniel was getting was in the tens of thousands.
No, he had,
Respond, I can't.
they range from, I think the cheapest was like 2,400, and I think the most expensive was 6,000 and something. I think the question was what was going to be adequate to get to buy enough time to where that building was torn down. So one company said, all you need to do is this with 2,400, it'll get you by, where I think Nelson's was like, oh, you need to do more, which costs more to, satisfy the problem. So it was kind of a, who do you believe kind of thing. So total roof replacement
Like I said,
was astronomical, but with the intention to tear that building down, it was more of buying time.
I can submit this on my repairs item line as the budget, but I did not budget that expense for this year. And obviously, as the year would come close to the end, I would probably suffer that line and be approaching you again. I'd be happy to pay the bill on my repairs line for the sheriff's office, but
You gotta fix it.
I
Well, it's-
no,
I did not, I thought it
it has been leaking for months. I had employees with buckets on their desk and
Yeah,
everything. I fixed
see in the
it.
pictures.
Got it done. So,
Yeah, so it's fixed. It's,
I don't have a problem with paying it.
Yeah.
It needed to be done. I know we're gonna tear down, but by the time the new building's up and ready to go, that has to be taken care of.
well, like I said, I just discussed a little bit with you and apologize that I was kind of in dire need to get it. And like a hole in it, like you got a hole in your boat, you have to plug it, and I had a hole in my roof and it needed fixed right away.
what is it, 6,600, 6,400?
6382. So, like I said, if you want, I can give that to Amy after the meeting.
Which we didn't budget for.
So, and I don't believe you guys budgeted for this well.
Yeah, I think we're happy to take care of it. I mean, these repairs come about. Sometimes they're not budgeted repairs, but we gotta keep the place in good condition. So yeah, if Amy wants to put together a resolution, I have no issue taking care of that.
Well, like I said, once again, I apologize for the lack of communication, just, the need and had to get the roof fixed. Which does, the policy that you see in this day and age, it's hard to.
Yeah, and that's why I have it on the agenda today, is to go over a little bit of that procurement policy and some of the financial constraints. This is an example, anything over $2,400 needs a contract. The prosecutor needs to sign off on the contract, commissioners need to sign off on the contract, so forth, so on. Is that number too small? That's, yeah. So this one didn't comply with the policy, but we can get into that later on in the agenda. And the sheriff Rosen's the only one that's experienced this.
Well, once again, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I appreciate your. But those are the only two things that I wanted to talk about this morning. About, you guys have anything since I was gone to throw at me or discuss?
I don't believe so. So
Nope.
Thank you.
Happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
And we're happy to have you. Thank you. Mr. Atkins?
Good morning. I've got a couple of things. They're both a little dense, but
I've been asked for answers on these issues, and I have them at this point. So the first I want to go through is the lingering question that we had from the questions that were submitted to the Attorney General's office regarding the installation of broadband fiber optics. And the question that stemmed from that decision was, what does the competitive bidding process look like? The opinion said that was mandatory pursuant to the statute, and we couldn't realistically determine how the logistics would look like. I reached out to the Attorney General's office, expressed our concern, indicated that we're very happy with the opinion, it's given a lot of guidance, but can you help with this additional question that was not anticipated at the time we submitted the questions? I worked with a couple of the attorneys in their opinions department, and they did additional research. We had a couple of phone conferences, and they provided additional information and answer, which I was very thankful for. So the information that was given to me is essentially the statutes that are referenced, the 30710 and the 554705, kind of distinguish between a sale or lease of county property as compared to a right to use. And their opinion was that if the county is selling or leasing real property, there must be a competitive bidding process and there must be payment for the sale or lease of that property. But they don't believe that's the case for a right to use. There is no requirement, just because of the way that the statute is framed, there's no requirement that payment be made for a right to use, for instance, an access to the right of way. Payment's not required. However, competitive bidding is required. And so we talked about logistically, what does that look like when you don't have payment? Because it's kind of counterintuitive. And they completely agreed with that and essentially said, statute says what it said. We're telling you our interpretation, although in practice that might look odd. And essentially what they said is there has to be an open process. Even if you have a company, regardless if it's private or public, that's coming to the engineer or the commissioners and saying, I want to access the right of way, there has to be some kind of publication that the county is considering granting access to the right of way, a submission of a bid requesting to use the right of way, and then a determination of what proposal is best for the county. Now, typically, because the company is coming to the county, there's only going to be one bid submitted. And essentially what they said is that the bidding requirement requires the commissioners to choose the best bid. That doesn't necessarily mean that payment has to be attached. It's just what's best for the public interest of the county. So it's again, counterintuitive, but that open process pursuant to the statute is required. And I know that that's contrary to what every county in the state does, but that is what their interpretation of the statute is. Now, what they did indicate is that, and I can read this in the statute as well, and we talked about this. In 30710C, there are exceptions. First exception is any other political subdivision. So any other governmental entity doesn't have to go through competitive bidding, they're exempt. The other exception is there are specific utilities that are listed. And it doesn't matter if they're private or public, but it includes electric or power, natural gas, and telephone and telegraph. Those utilities are exempt from competitive bidding. And in talking with the assistant at the AG's office, they actually recommended that we approach state rep or state senator and get broadband included, get an amendment to the 30710C, include fiber optics as being exempt because it's as much a utility at this point as the other three. So that was a big recommendation. Now, in looking at that process, that submission of the bid to the commissioners and then the approval, we have to follow the 5 requirements of the 554705, and that's the statute that essentially outlines what the commissioners have to do and when they can transfer that right to use. And so it requires the county to indicate that that specific area is not needed right now by the county. The company has to submit specifications as to what the installation will look like. It has to be determined that the installation won't impact existing use of the right-of-way. It doesn't endanger the public, And then there's also the options, the fifth requirement, it's discretionary. You can get an indemnity agreement from the company that they'll essentially hold harmless. So because of those findings, what the AG has said is that when there is a situation that the Board of Commissioners grants right to use the right-of-way, there essentially has to be a resolution with those findings and then granting the approval of access to the right-of-way. The engineer does not have that authority unilaterally. They can accept the application, process it, but it's got to be brought to you for your specific approval. So that was the first topic. Anybody, anything else on that? Any questions? Okay. So the second topic was the question of if we're going through this process and there is an application requesting use of the right-of-way, does it have to be granted? Does your board have discretion to deny the application to the right-of-way? So going through the basics, you still got to meet the company asking for access, still has to meet those 5 criteria or 4 mandatory criteria in the statute. Still have to go before your board for approval, but there is no automatic right to access the right-of-way. You have discretion, and that's true even if the applicant is another political subdivision. I mean, it can literally be a city or a municipality, asking for access. It can be a public utility or a private utility. You have the right to say no. And those 3 things in that position of having the discretion is supported by, it's Ohio Supreme Court, Attorney General's opinion, the statute, and the 12th district as well, our appellate district. But there's a big caveat, there's a however, and that's chapter 2506. Under that Ohio Revised Code chapter, it allows for an individual that applies to a board, a commission, any kind of governmental entity or a body that is a decision-making authority. It gives them the right to appeal that decision to the Common Pleas Court. Okay? And so that applies to Board of Commissioners. It would apply equally to like Regional Planning Commission or Zoning Commission, same kind of concept. You can appeal the decision to Common Pleas Court. And there are specifically 6 reasons listed in the statute that you can appeal on. So essentially they're appealing that the decision of the board is either unconstitutional, illegal, arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence on the whole record. The 2 that come up most common in case law are it being arbitrary or capricious. And so essentially what the various courts have said is that in order to avoid a finding that you're just being arbitrary in your decision, you have to set up a paradigm or criteria for when you're going to grant or deny access to the right-of-way. And again, this applies across the board, so political subdivisions, public utilities, private utilities. What's interesting though, and we'll have to look at this, is because it has to be for a public purpose, typically a decision of the Board of Commissioners is deemed to be for a public purpose. You get the presumption that you're acting in favor of the public, but that presumption doesn't apply if you're talking about a private person, like a just private landowner wanting access to the right-of-way. Unless it's their property, they wouldn't have access to it because it wouldn't be a public purpose. So you need to set up this paradigm, and that's my recommendation. If you want to look at denying access to the right-of-way in certain situations, set up criteria. I know that the engineer's office already has that, but but the engineer's office is looking at, safety issues, engineering issues, making sure that the installation doesn't impact other existing utilities within the right-of-way. This paradigm is more about thinking of, well, what's our comp plan? What's our zoning? What kind of access do we want, or public utilities do we want in this area?
So we could deny a gas pipeline?
Yes, but you have to have that paradigm in place. It could also be.
So it sounds like we need to get on it.
Yeah.
When you say deny a gas pipeline, you mean from a site to connecting to the interstate?
Yeah, sure.
We can deny the connection?
It's not necessarily you're denying the connection, you're denying the use of your right-of-way. You have an ownership easement in the right of way, and you can say, public utility, you can't use our right of way because it doesn't align with our paradigm of what we think is appropriate for this area.
So eminent domain doesn't mean anything when it comes to that?
No, they get,
Well, that would be,
eminent domain is separate. So eminent domain, okay, so typically eminent domain is used against a private property owner, right? So that wouldn't even involve your board or the government. When you look at eminent domain involving either two different public entities or a public utility that has the right to utilize eminent domain, well, then the court has to look at the competing interests of the two entities. Like which is more favorable to the community, allowing eminent domain or to denying it.
So I'm talking biodigester here, okay? So let's get it out, okay? So if they come to us and want to use the right of way,
Yeah.
we could tell them no. But we have to have the criteria.
You need to justify your decision.
Right,
So you need to have criteria in
so
place
public-
to say, these reasons that we've set forth that are criteria, your application doesn't match, and so we think it's not the best fit, we're gonna deny that.
So I think the topic that's most relevant on that subject right now is the power lines, because we don't know, they don't plan to use the right of way, or at least they haven't indicated that. For the gas connection, they're seeking easements, but they have told our engineer,
Yeah.
who reported to us that they want to upgrade the power lines. So you're saying we should take action now to
I
do
wouldn't-
what?
I would develop, a list of criteria that you're gonna consider. Even if you don't wanna utilize it right now, I'm sure this is gonna come up again, considering we have this opinion. And it'll be a basis for you to make decisions in the future without having to worry. I mean, there's always the possibility of litigation, but you can feel a lot more comfortable in your decisions and making sure that they're supported by existing bylaw.
Is public sentiment, I think that's a tough one, but could that be used as one of the criteria? When you got 200 people that show up.
arbitrary is a key word.
But-
I know, that's why I'm
The
trying-
question I have is, I think we're all talking about a specific situation. This would, if they set criteria, that's gonna be across the board.
Correct.
So you can't, it's not like a targeted,
Understand.
okay, I just wanna make sure, because that's,
Yeah.
You gotta make it fair for everybody. I get it.
And you don't wanna kill a project that's beneficial, not this project, but a project. like-
here for something over here.
Yeah.
Tony, one of the things that, based on your question you just asked, that I was thinking about is maybe some kind of criteria that analyzes the overall purpose of the upgrade or installation. Is this purpose to benefit one individual
Yes.
user, or is this going to benefit the public as a whole?
Right.
And if the intent is to literally service one company, one property owner,
Yeah.
then.
Well, here's
then
my,
you can rely on
here's my
public
thought, okay,
purpose.
so with this
Right.
biodigester, they wanna make gas, right? When they pipe the gas, it's not gonna benefit the neighbors, cause most of them don't have hookup to it, it's gonna be dumped somewhere else to go somewhere else, how does that benefit the immediate public?
Well,
It
I
doesn't.
understand what you're saying. The counter to that is public is more broad than the people that live adjacent to them.
But I wasn't elected to represent anybody else.
Sure.
Anyway, that's good,
I think we should start
That's
working on
good.
paradigm
Yes.
criteria.
Yes. yes.
It will also help the engineer's office because they're gonna have to adjust their process and start bringing the applications before your board. And it'll make their recommendation even easier if they have that framework of what you want to see.
No, That's
So
good,
is there anything that Brian should be made aware of, because he had reported to us that
Yeah.
they essentially gave him a courtesy, but I don't know what he'll have to do in the meantime to approve or to facilitate this happening, do you know? I mean,
Well, I talked to him already about this based on the original opinion. He knows that now all approvals have to come before you, so he won't unilaterally act. He'll accept the application, they will do their initial investigation to determine the appropriateness of the upgrade, and then bring it to you for your approval. I was hoping he would be here today. I was actually considering delaying until he was here, but my understanding is he won't be here at all this morning. So I will make sure he's aware of everything I just shared.
Thank you.
What's your thoughts, Mr. Wallace?
No, I mean, I think we gotta act quickly to put some sort of criteria in place. I mean, we don't want to do something silly and have a criteria that is,
You're,
you will kill something that we don't wanna kill, but yeah, I mean, I think we gotta
yeah, I
strong,
think that balance is tough.
yeah, I think that we gotta strike a balance there between having strong criteria, but also not killing a project that we would otherwise wanna see move forward. I think we should probably do some research into see if other counties
Yeah.
have established some sort of criteria, and then maybe we could use that criteria or use a number of counties' criteria to come up with our own criteria, so.
That's typically my go-to. I will say though, our research prior to asking for the public or the Attorney General's opinion,
Probably a lot of counties are all over the place.
Yeah.
And don't have any criteria.
correct. Rob and I worked and Brian and I worked together. We reached out to over 10 counties. There was no county that indicated anything close to what I just outlined. Honestly, most of the decisions were being made by the engineer himself.
We could be first.
He could be first.
I think you referenced the comp plan. Would this criteria have to be inserted into the comp plan?
It wouldn't, but I
You could.
was thinking the same thing. It could be used, not necessarily inserted into the comp plan, but using the comp plan
Yeah.
as a document to support a decision. Like, hey, this is ag.
Right.
Exactly. And that was my thought. Like,
Okay.
You're talking about installing major facilities in an area that is not commercial, not industrial, so it's contrary, and so that's can be one of the bases of your criteria that you consider.
Okay, and that could be passed based on a freestanding resolution. It wouldn't need to be included in an update to the comp plan.
Right.
No, it's just setting your
Just reference.
framework for what you want the process to look like. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What can we do in the comp plan to both encourage and discourage?
Yeah,
I mean, in some places, like, we spoke at the meeting, in some places like a big dairy farm that's got 3,000 acres surrounding it, that might be a beneficial thing, but, what wording can we use in the comp plan to justify some of this? And yet, in areas like residential, hell no, is there something we can think of to?
I mean, I think it's clearly identifying where growth is going to happen and be clear on what type of growth you want in a particular area. And then in the resolution, clearly state we are following the comp plan designated areas that are focused on, particular use.
Yeah, gotta figure it out.
I think the most difficult situations will be those where you're talking about the extension of public utilities across the traditional agricultural area, but that are servicing more commercial areas that are separated. That's gonna be really difficult to parse out.
Yeah, and I can't think of anything like that. I mean, the only thing I can maybe think of in the long future is 323. If for some reason the utility was, I don't know, but other than that, the focus has always been, it's actually, I'll talk a little bit more later if I have a few minutes, but the focus continues to be along primary corridors, right? So I think keeping that focus and not deviating from that's we've had a history of that. I think that's gonna be going in our favor.
So since we talked about this in open meetings, recorded, everybody's gonna see it. If somebody comes tomorrow and asks, we're still in the process of figuring out, so we have the right to delay until we know all the facts. Am I
You can
correct?
set forth your criteria, absolutely. I think if there is an application in this timeframe, there's always the possibility of a challenge based on the fact that the criteria weren't in place. But as long as you make the criteria in a way that is not clear to target a specific project, I think you're okay there.
Nor would you want it to.
Right, I completely agree.
Nice. Good info. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Nick, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Try to work through this voice problem I'm having, so bear with me. The CEO of AAA's Hall of Fame nomination, we got an email. This is something that we typically struggle with, finding a nomination and find somebody at the last minute to nominate. So I would encourage everybody to start thinking of an individual. I thought maybe Brendan, since he's kind of new, might have some relationships outside that the commissioners haven't had in the past. So might be able to tap into you to make some recommendations on a nomination.
And can you describe what the award is?
Basically, it's over 60, I believe, person that's had impactful activity here in the county for service, basically, service to the community. There's an award given at the
They have a bank.
Department of Aging, there's a lunch. We present the award to them. Multiple counties in central Ohio, so, different counties will be there, cities, villages, townships, so forth, so on, different organizations. So Life Care Alliance has been a person, someone from Life Care Alliance has been nominated in the past. The Friends of the Parks and Trails, for example, various different organizations. So we're just running out of people, I think, at this point in time to nominate. So
Does our nominee get the recognition, or are they going up against others?
no,
So it's
whoever
one
you
county.
nominate is will be there, and for later discussion, who wants to present the award to them and give a little speech on what they do and who they are and that sort of thing. I've done it in the past. I think they've done it the last maybe couple of years. So, but just put it on your radar so when it comes around, we're not struggling to find somebody. I'd nominate Chris Wallace personally.
These too young.
Tony's getting close to the 60.
Getting close.
Yeah.
Another year. No, 6 months.
6 months.
The open checkbook update, I've sent the auditor's office a couple emails. She did get back to me last week. The state treasurer has all our information and they are implementing the Ohio checkbook, even as we speak, but they do not have a time frame as to when that will be live. But we are near the goal line on that. So the purchasing and procurement policy that I sent copies to you guys in an email earlier or last week. One, I don't think there are many departments that are being compliant with this policy. Two, I'm fairly confident that the state auditor will identify non-compliance with the policy and will bring that to our attention. Just for a little bit of history, the procurement policy was recommendation to the state auditor and the county auditor. I hired Jeff Stankunas, I believe, worked with Nick to construct the policy. It was implemented. That policy went out to everyone, and I think they just kind of forgot about it. The other piece of it is the credit card portion. So we approved a procurement card for credit cards, for a credit card through Huntington to be used in this policy. I think there's some departments out there that still have their own credit card and aren't using this credit card. So I guess my question is, should we start, one, reminding everyone of the policy, and two, deny payments if the policy isn't met? How do you want to go with that? And the third is if you want to update that policy, because right now it's 2,400, I believe, is the cutoff for a contract.
Why do we have a policy for it?
It was a recommendation, and I don't know if it's required. Is it mandatory now?
Okay, so we have a policy. We need to enforce the policy.
Okay, so
I mean, what else do you do?
do you want to amend the policy to raise those numbers that were initially accepted in that policy? $2,400, anything over that needs a contract.
Yeah.
Most vendors don't want to write up a contract for $2,400.
How was that number chosen initially, 24?
Out of the window.
To be honest with you, I can't remember. Like I said, Jeff Stankunas is an attorney, was our quarterback on this. And I don't know if you remember or not, Nick. If that was recommendations from the state auditor at the time.
No, I think they were looking at the statutory framework for the requirement that there be the procurement policy. It requires that a threshold be set. And I can't remember, I don't believe if that was a mandatory amount, but I do believe that that was the amount that, I can't remember if it was that a contract was required or that there had to be more than one option considered. I can't.
Both.
Okay, it's both?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
pursuant to the statute.
Yeah, so it's multiple quotes and a contract.
Under the statute, the $1,000 threshold is when the commissioners have to approve. We have that right now with your vouchers and your POs over 1,000. So I think the 2,500 is where the next step kicks in. It has to be, there's supposed to be a contract and consider more than one
Yeah, there's
contractor.
a few different tiers
Right.
with different
And then you go to
requirements.
competitive bidding.
So you're saying that 2,400 number is statutory then, so we put it in
I
that
believe,
minutes?
I believe it is, I believe it is. Well, it's 2,500 essentially. Once you hit that level, then you have to have the contract. So
Okay,
the Senate 24.
so we couldn't
below that.
amend the policy to increase that number.
I think we can go back and look to see if that is statutory or not.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
If it is, the question's answered and we enforce the policy. If it's not, then we can take a look at maybe that number, say 5,000, something like that. Of course, competitive bidding still plays a role at that $75,000 mark. That's clear. So
I've always wondered what would happen if we wouldn't pay. I mean, is that a legitimate option that we have? I mean, these bills have already been incurred. I mean, we don't really have that as an option.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're gonna get sued, right, by the whatever contractor.
procurement lien of some sort, maybe.
Sure,
or-
sure.
So that's not an option, that's what I'm saying. So
Not realistically, your option is to talk to the department and you can impact their budget.
Okay. So that's what you mean when you say we need to enforce the
We
policy.
need to enforce the
Yeah.
policy. I mean, we have a policy. Why do we have it? That's the question, right?
Right.
If we're not gonna enforce it,
Right.
don't have one. Let everybody do what they want.
Yeah. And I think another question we need to
See if we have
look
to-
into
There's no
is,
really mechanism for us to enforce it though.
is it for,
Except that. I know, but that takes a year.
is it for all county expenditures or is it for general fund expenditures? Because I think there's some question there. And my thought was, it was for all county expenditures.
I think that's the requirement of the statute for the procurement policy of all expenditures, at least for inside accounts.
Yes, yes.
And Amy's created the template for the
It's a
contracts for
pretty short,
services or
yeah.
goods. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
10-page contract, you just fill in the blanks.
Yes.
That's
yes.
easy enough to.
And that's in the procurement policy itself, so, I don't know if you created another one or if that's the same one that's in the policy or not, but it's
I
pretty
created for
straightforward.
Dan, I sent it Dan, so I have to go look at the.
Yeah, so, but that is, I mean, there's a basically criteria, a matrix you fill out, example contracts, so forth, so on, that basically says, yes, I made this decision on good factual information, criteria, apples to apples. I think that is a key phrase in that policy.
Yeah. So I would just start with a friendly reminder to everyone that they're to be following that policy, and then we can.
And I know it does create additional work for everybody, so.
It's there, it has to be complied with.
Okay. I will return next week with more information on that.
With that $2,500 threshold.
Yeah. Okay, fiber ring update. Ice Miller and Ohio Gig have reached out to me several times with concerns about the plowing versus directional boring restrictions. I don't think they've gotten anywhere, and they're asking that we could expedite this a little bit. So I've reached out to the county engineer a couple times. I'm sure his plate is full, but it's something that we probably need to push forward a little bit. With that, we have $18,000 in credit to engineering. We have two options. We can apply those dollars to additional engineering, such as that our connection to Hilliard. There's a couple schools that we can apply that to, making that connection, or we can get a refund. They're basically saying, hey, if this project isn't going to move forward, and this is my opinion too, if this project isn't going to move forward, then we might as well get a refund of that $18,000. Because basically, if we can't resolve this plowing, it's not economically feasible for a third-party company to complete the project. So again, that it goes back to my initial statement, the importance of determining what that policy is and everything that goes with it. So that's where we're at.
I would get the 18,000 back.
Get the 18,000 back.
So the last I remember, Brian had said they were working through this issue and there seemed to be some agreement, give and take. I mean, is that not been, those talks not continued? Or?
I don't believe they have.
Okay.
Yeah, according to Icemore, who is our consultant and attorneys, it sounds like that is stalled. And they are asking for the commissioners to try to move that along. I'm sure Ohio Gig with springtime coming right around the corner, they're
Oh yeah, they're itchy.
they're probably anticipating starting construction sooner than later. So I'll reach out to the engineer again and see if he has any other questions as far as that's concerned.
We have had several meetings over the last 2 months regarding this topic, and Brian did ask some staff members for some feedback on another example of an agreement regarding long-term maintenance of these things. Obviously, the concern is specifically field tile, that if you plow through at 42 inches deep, you're going to hit a number of field tile because we just don't know where every single one of these are. So we're trying to come up with final language on that. So I would say it's not dead as far as my, what I'm seeing, but Brian would have to make that statement.
So you're talking about the agreement that was provided to the engineer's office to deal with the tile?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're still working through that?
Yeah.
But I think they're ready to move in a different direction. Is the reason behind expediting this process. They're like, we don't want to put all our eggs in Madison County. So if we can't get it done here, we're going to go to another county and work there, more or less. So I think we need to push that along.
Will you take that message back to Brian? Maybe
Yes,
it's a sense of urgency that there needs to be a resolution, and we're happy to help, where we can to reach a resolution on that issue. Thank you.
Okay, application for certification of the Oak Run Solar Project as a qualified energy project with the State of Ohio Department of Development. As you know, Department of Development certified Oak Run as a qualified energy project based on an assumption that the AZ, alternate energy zone, was still in place in Madison County, which it was not. I informed them that it was repealed unanimously by the Board of County Commissioners in 2022. The Department of Development then issued a notice to Savion that the QEP certification was issued in error and then rescinded it. However, DOD then reinitiated the process. So now you have the Oak Run Solar QEP application before you. pursuant to ORC 5727.75E and OAC 122:23-1-02. If you approve the application, it would go back to the DOD for QEP approval. If you do nothing, the certificate will be denied. However, we put together a resolution denying the application so we can have something on paper that we can provide that documentation in other areas. So I'd like to present that resolution to you. You can act on it now or wait till Amy goes through all the different resolutions.
Let's do it now.
Resolution denying Savion's application for certification of the Oak Run Solar Project as a qualified energy project with the State of Ohio Department of Development.
So moved?
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yep.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
All right, then I would like for you to consider an executive session on employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee.
So moved.
Second?
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
And it would probably just be the commissioners, Amy and myself, and Rhonda could stay if she wanted.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Out in the
Yeah,
hallway.
you're out. You're out. John, you're outside. Why would I want Nick out? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Nick, you could stay. That's a good point. I was just more joking about Nick and John being off the island. Nick, I was just joking about you being.
That's what I said, that's why I'll call it.
Sign and sheet.
When the
You actually have a policy.
Where'd it go? Okay. There's some spares.
But, you know, within.
You go, all right. Yeah, I got one.
That's what I said, I don't.
Okay, good.
All I know about statutes is that you need to go to the.
That's what that is. This is just.
Yeah, so if I'm buying a $2,800 used from Amazon, what do I get?
That's what it's did.
When you're playing.
Yeah.
All right, anyways,
Yeah, I'll do that.
so this way.
Oh, yeah.
Is the recording on?
Not yet. Amy, if you want to start recording. The light on the mic is not red, right, Chris?
It is not red.
It's your mute button just,
It was recording. I didn't stop.
That's recorded.
I left the meeting.
So it's still,
When you go back into the meeting, it's recording.
Yep, it says recorded.
Was the executive recorded?
we stopped the meeting. I
All
still can't feel my
right,
arm.
we are exiting
I
executive,
thought I was recording.
we're exiting executive session and resuming normal session. David was not terminated. Yes. How you doing, sir?
Me? Yeah. Commissioner, yes, doing well. How are you?
Are we doing the legislative updates tonight, by the way?
Is that tonight?
I'm gonna try to make it.
Oh, that's tonight.
Yeah.
What, that's a, what time?
5 to 7. You're talking about the reception?
Yeah.
You gonna pick me up? I'll go.
If you need us, we can run this
How
yourself.
work goes today.
Potentially.
Would've been worried.
Do you have a suit that fits?
I have no suit.
What is that?
If you want
I
a
think
suit,
you should wear what you get up.
I can't go, I don't have one.
I think you should wear what you get up.
I know, I look good in any, tell them.
That's right. Your face is patented.
That's right.
Those? Uh-huh.
I was at the CCAO members conference. Span the gamut for what people
I seen it.
were wearing. Some people just got off the tractor.
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, well, it's yesterday,
Yesterday,
today,
today.
and half of tomorrow. I'm gonna go back half of tomorrow. And I'll go to reception tonight.
Was it fruitful?
Very well. We have, this is the time set aside for the CDBG public hearing, number 1.
Oh, and this is yours.
That's my notebook. Yeah, don't make me use it, people.
Jeez, one time would have been enough.
You're very good at that.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Whitaker Wright. I'm the CDC of Ohio. We help Madison County administer the Community Development Block Grant Program. Today, we are holding the first 2025 general public hearing for all of the eligible CDBG block grant programs. We currently have grants in 2024 program year. However, in the event that someone were to come in and request an emergency grant or a critical infrastructure program, or David were to apply for economic development funding in program year 2025, this opens up at least the fact that we have provided the general information, and then there will be a second grant-specific public hearing for the actual request for funds. So in general, the department, these are all funds through the Ohio Department of Development. It's called the Ohio Small City CDBG Program. They run a number of housing and supportive housing programs and community development grants. The housing programs include the CHIP, or Community Housing Development Program, the operating program for community actions, housing development assistance through Ohio Housing Finance Agency, the housing assistance grant program, those go through community actions. We also provide some limited shelter and supported housing programs, the homeless assistance, and Hope Law funds for people with AIDS. Those typically only go to Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. For homeless funding in particular, each region has specific designated nonprofit. Here, I believe it's the Salvation Army. Under community development programs, essentially, the Community Development Block Grant was initiated to provide assistance to qualified low and moderate income households or communities to address slum and blight and public infrastructure. About half the funding goes to the CDBG competitive programs. Those include the Neighborhood Revitalization Grant. It's a $750,000 grant that requires a pre-application. We sent it to the state, and they would say, yes, we really do have a fundable program. And that is typically addressing a multitude, typically 3 or 4 community projects that are identified by residents in the community to assist them. We have just completed one here in London, and we would be eligible to apply for another one in 2026. The critical infrastructure program, that's $500,000. That generally is one high priority project. We currently have one that was funded under 2024 in Sterling, where the Church Street neighborhood has sewage effluent running out the street. They have a series of collapsed sewer lines. We are funding to repair those lines. Additional funding includes what's called the downtown program, although it's really now part of the what they call the discretionary or the flex grant program. And they've moved it under the flex, the discretionary program, because they've had too many problems with it in the past. The money just not getting spent. But all of the economic development, loans, infrastructure, drinking water programs, that all is considered economic development. The county does have one of the residential public infrastructure grants when they were addressing the project in Somerford Township. There are a multitude of ways to actually address or qualify projects, but before I say that, the other large grant program that they do is called the discretionary grant program, or they renamed it Flex for some reason. That is a project where community, they don't really fit any category. And the state will accept potential applications all year long. And typically they will look at applications 3 or 4 times a year. They batch them. The county submitted one in December to address the parking lot problems at the DD school. And surprisingly, they contacted the county last month and said, we'd like you to complete the application. They considered it enough of a problem to just move forward with it. And we'll hold a separate public hearing on that particular grant in 2 weeks. That's a $250,000 request, and the DD board is providing about $115,000 in matching funds. We're going to reconstruct the whole parking area. It was essentially it was built in the 70s as a high school. Everybody was bused in. Now it's a daycare preschool. They have drop off twice a day, and everybody's driving. And if you've ever been there to watch it, you will be terrified that it's going to run. Anyway, there are multiple ways to qualify projects. One is by the census data. HUD works with the Census Bureau, and every 5 years with the American Community Survey, they will identify specific block groups or communities that are considered low and moderate income. Mount Sterling, Midway, South Solon are low LMI. Plumwood is LMI. A portion of London is, but that's about it. It's very limited over here. As the counties become more of a commuter suburb, Columbus, Dayton, Springfield, the income has gone up. We can't do income surveys. We actually did that originally in Midway. The ladies went out one December and they got it done. Direct benefit, that would be a housing program, limited clientele. We're doing that right now with a project in Plain City, where we're putting in an ADA crosswalk at Maple Street to cross 161. Economic development, again, that depends on how many LMI households are hired as a part of the project, and they have a formula that David might be able to explain. And then finally, slum and blight, where we have demolition projects over the years, area-wide slum and blight. We took down an old church next to the juvenile court, municipal court building years ago. We've taken down some abandoned houses in South Solon. We've done a couple down here in London as well. Slum and blight for public improvements is typically frowned on just because it's very hard to prove, unless you can camera and show that water and sewer lines are just decimated. But I did show, just by way of example, what's considered LMI. HUD determines this every year. They're the only federal agency that tries to do every county in the country annually. These are the current Section 8 limits for Madison County. They consider the median household income to be $103,300, with a family of one at $7,900. We will, like I said, right now, this year, we don't really have anything on the deck because the discretionary program is part of program year 24, and we had that public hearing last year. I have any further questions.
I have none.
Thank you very much for being here. This is helpful information. So what we're doing today, this is a hearing to be eligible to submit
Yes.
applications for 2025. I had questions last week about
Right.
the two resolutions that are now before us today.
Right.
So one's on the Fairhaven parking lot, which I've been there and I've observed what you're talking about, and it is a big problem. The other is just increasing appropriations for the facilitation of one that's already been approved.
Correct.
So that's what we're dealing with today. These hearings, what is the requirement of these hearings? We have to publish it. Are
Yes.
you required to be here and provide an overview, or is it a formality so that the public's aware that these applications?
Well, it's probably become a formality, but I think it's important to be here to present the information. I had one commissioner who sort of took a nap when I did it, but, he also heard this for 13 years. But it is a federal requirement that we have a general public hearing early in the year for program year 25. And it is confusing, when I say program 25, that would start in September.
That was my question last week, so I understand that.
But applications typically for a lot of the competitive grants are due in June for the 25 funds. And so I start now, that gives people the years that we're actually applying for application or competitive grants, get that started now. And then we hold a planning meeting, general application this time of year, give people some time to start pulling projects together. Last year, generally, we ask for projects by April 15th, just because it's an easy date to remember. Last year, we received the two, one from the citizen that was requesting the ED school to bring their swing set up to the ADA standards.
Is it typical that the hearing would occur after the application has already been submitted in the case of Fairhaven?
We cannot submit the application to the ED school until we have the second public hearing.
So we're approving it today,
You're just approving allowing the county to submit the application.
but it's not gonna happen until the hearing?
No, not until after the hearing.
Is there any reason we wouldn't have the hearing before? I mean, going forward, just as a standard practice?
You could do the resolution the day of the hearing, doesn't really matter, right? Just send it over. I was working through this because they've asked for it by the end of March.
How is the hearing advertised? Is that
We put it in the paper, and we put it on the county's website.
the messenger?
Yes. Yeah, that's, the feds have never changed that, and that's, public, newspaper. They've loosened up a little bit to say we can put it online now, because they recognize, particularly in rural areas, fewer and fewer papers are available.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, we'll move into open session. If anybody in the audience has comments, questions, concerns, have at it.
Brad Benford, thank you all for attending last Thursday's meeting. I thought it was great. Thank you all for speaking, even you, Tony.
You're welcome.
We didn't know we were going to get you to talk, though.
I talk when I need to talk. Other than that, I stay my mouth.
Yeah, he talks plenty, trust me.
So, yeah, it was a great turnout, 192 people, I think I said earlier. I think we had very good impact of speakers, good material to give everybody. What I took from it is everybody was quiet. Everybody was listening. That was there. Typically, you get some side conversations, one and stuff. You didn't have any of that, so we did have the attorney there. Everybody knows, so that was good. And let him do that. Based off of the TV, interview that they did at 10 o'clock. I think they talked to Majid, prior to that meeting, they had their feedback on it, so, but all's good. Yeah, I think we just keep going what we're doing as far as our meetings and stuff like that, and showing support. I think it's very important. I'd like to, when all you guys were up on the stage. I thought that had a good impact, so thank you again for doing that.
Yes, thank you for putting the event together. Yeah, very, very informative and well attended and well done, so. That's all I have. Thank you, Sergeant. Anybody? Rapid fire.
I was gone for a couple of weeks, just back. I was just talking with Dave Kell, a few concerns that we have about the edge of what's happening in our township. I'm somewhat, how would you say? I'm troubled about some things that are happening as far as moving forward with the sewer and things like that. But we're just trying to work through some things. So I just want you to be aware that we as a township are a little concerned.
Yeah, I share that concern. Maybe we'll have a conversation after the meeting to talk a little bit more about those concerns. Thank you, sir.
Steve Durson. First, I'd like to say I'm excited to have my chair back. 2 weeks ago, I couldn't even get in the room, so.
That's right. I'm glad you're able to sit.
I'll get information, I've sent it out, but I'll get it out to all of you. It's been so difficult to get federal officials' attention and to help us because there are things we would like them to do. We are having a potential meeting with some people from Bernie Moreno's office. So I'll get that out, whoever would like to attend, we appreciate it if you can. We can understand that. There's a couple dates they threw out there. There'll be 2 people from his office, not Bernie himself. But maybe we've got a meeting here like we did the other time, Rob, with Mike Terry's team. So I'll get that out. Second, in terms of what went over earlier, a few ideas I want to throw out there, but I can put these in emails, that is easier. One is at the 9:10 meeting from Vanguard, there was a section, I looked at the video segment of it. Basically, they said, and they admitted, there is no public good from their project. It only benefits one person, and that's Kevin Summers. They actually admitted it at the 9:10 meeting. So I don't know if that helps us, but they admitted that it wasn't a public good. And they also admitted they won't be paying taxes. They admitted maybe they'll do a pilot program. But they said, yeah, even for taxes. So they were admitting there isn't a public good for this project. One thing to distinguish this project from other projects is at that 9:10 meeting, Vanguard had a slide that said, look how we're going to improve your lives from an air quality, from a soil, from a water perspective. That slide was focused on a dairy farm. It was saying we're going to improve things versus a dairy farm on these things. But in our case, there is no dairy farm. Everything they're doing is bringing new risk to our community. So however that fits into it, it's all new risk. It's new. Now they'll say, we got great technology, we'll do that, but it's all risk for us that live there. Risk of air, water, safety, the environment, the increased traffic, the depressed home values. There's all these things, they're just negative. There's no positives for us in the community. Another one that comes to mind is we have all the resolutions from not only from you, but from the township and the health department. So plus resident opposition, we have a petition with hundreds and hundreds of signatures on it. So we have evidence saying there is opposition to the project. We have heard also conflicting, but I'm sounding more and more, there won't be manure as an input. So what is this project coming in that's supposed to be so green and beneficial, and if they're not going to even use manure? Early on in the project, I contacted another biodigester. It's located near 71 and 270. And at that point, they're in an industrial zone. They said they have more capacity. They have capacity to take on any products from Anheuser-Busch or anybody else. So why in the world would Anheuser-Busch or other companies truck it all the way out here, having more of a carbon footprint when there's already in a facility that can convert it to natural gas somewhere else? So those are just some of the things. And the final thing is from talking to industry sources, the inputs going into this are going to be volatile. It's not going to be easy to get a mix of that high quality natural gas. You actually want a higher amount of manure to get a better quality of natural gas. So since they're having different products coming in, it's going to be very difficult to get a high enough quality to inject into the interstate pipeline. What that means is in other locations this has happened, it could be 6 months or longer that they're flaring off this gas because it won't be high enough quality. So you can see just there are so many reasons this is not a benefit to us and the community. So I just want to mention that. I don't know if that helps you with thinking through it, but those are the things that are harmful to us around that.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other comments,
There
concerns?
was, the EPA has had an updated list of things that they've requested of Vanguard. I just want to make sure that you guys have seen that list. You know about that?
Very good. Well, we thank you for your continued leadership on the issue. We appreciate it. I'm gonna go get some more caffeine. Okay, leadership is left.
I'm gonna make sure there aren't any more bidders outside.
Nick, are you interested in the legislative update this evening, attending? Atrium in the state.
No, I cannot.
Is it a,
CCAOs.
is it an update? Do they present on legislation or is it just mingling?
Mingling.
Okay, so
It's not.
it's not a
I
full.
think they give a 5-minute introduction at the beginning.
The same email we've all received multiple times.
Yeah. But it's a great way to network.
Yeah.
That's the only.
I got the CCAO, OTA, OPA.
The legislature.
Fellow commissioners, state reps, senators.
Yes, you want the, one of us on the hot seat there, so we can.
Are you gonna read these?
Engineer bid opening.
That's why I guess you want to be.
No, not.
I
They'll
did
do
the
is
last
they'll
one.
open bids. Let the bids. Make a decision which one they.
All right, where you want me at?
And they come back.
Front and center.
We're done.
They look for the best service. They know.
We don't. I don't believe.
Oh, we actually open things for them, and we can.
But they have to have it in public, like, so. They open it here.
Did the experts.
We don't have to do anything to that.
All resolutions.
Oh, I was gonna say, even now.
Are you aware?
That's an hour, but I like it.
Yeah, that I know. The other one was all of the travel and conferences.
She does it every year, like it's something she does it every year.
Is that 5?
I probably could have held it.
I got the flyer downstairs.
She gave it to you yesterday.
I was gonna cook to the grill.
Oh, I like, yeah.
5 to 7.
I mean, you gotta leave it at 4.
But we didn't register, so.
If you'll read
We have to
Oh.
register us.
We'll talk about
I
it.
think I'm registered by virtue of being,
At the
I think so.
new commission.
I think so.
Haven't been to it in a while. They have hors d'oeuvres.
You're gonna go ahead and jump in at 10.
They have hors d'oeuvres.
So they had 15 minutes on the agenda allocated for the incoming commissioners to get up and introduce themselves. And they asked, and there was, I don't know how many, 75 or 80. I said, there's no way this is gonna take 20 minutes. Continue your talk. He's good. I mean, that's, it's good to know, because you can see what issues are you dealing with. Mentioned biodigester.
They
number of
open
people.
at It's
Like,
electronic,
never
so we
heard
can't
that.
see it until
Wow.
10 o'clock.
A lot of people were asking me about the same.
Yeah. That's the glory of that system.
Well, in their companies,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, they're,
so you look at it, what,
they're gonna look at this.
right, exactly.
Oh, I see. So new member of legislative reception.
Oh, so we don't have to go.
You see that on there.
Okay, so we're not going.
I thought there was what did they have the normal legislative reception? Gosh darn it, gavel up the Oopsie. No, I don't think I was the culprit.
Oh, you're gonna present?
Well, we gotta open up the bids.
We're gonna do that.
Is your computer
Yes.
mine? So I can.
Okay, all right.
Do they have an invitation to the teams meeting?
I don't think they're gonna present.
We can put the bids up for the,
If you'd like.
the bridge, we can put them up there if you want us to, or.
Otherwise.
It's up to you, I was
It's
just
really,
saying.
we'll have probably 3 bidders on each, one overall number is all we'll have. So I don't know that it's a big deal.
Yeah, you can probably just read it. It's fine.
Up to you.
But I hope we have 3 bidders each. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, it is 10 a.m. This is the time set aside for the bid opening for asphalt materials.
Excellent, thank you very much. We'll get started with the bid for Cricosa Materials Incorporated.
For the sake of time, we are going to just announce aloud for the chip seal emulsion, HFRS 2P, SBR, CRS 2P, SBR, and then on the asphalt side, 448 intermediate type 1. So just be 3 numbers for each bid. Okay, so Cocosing Materials. No bid on the chip seal emulsion. 448 asphalt concrete intermediate type 1, 89.50 per ton.
Terry?
Terry Materials. Okay, so no bid on the asphalt. Chip seal emulsion, HFRS 2P, SBR 255 per gallon. CRS 2P, SBR 265 per gallon. The next one is the Clink Group. No bid on the asphalt. Chip seal emulsion, HFRS 2P, SBR. No bid. No bid on the CRS 2P. What they did bid is HFRS 2P. This must be the SBS 279.4. And this, nothing on CRS 2P.
Shelley Materials is next.
Asphalt, 448, intermediate type 1, $88 per ton. This is for Springfield. Hilliard, 448, asphalt intermediate type 1, $90.50 per ton. Ostrander 448 asphalt concrete intermediate type 1, $91.50. And no bid on the chip seal emulsion.
Next is asphalt materials.
Asphalt materials, no bid on the asphalt. Chip seal emulsion, HFRS 2P, SBR 236.9 per gallon. CRS 2P, SBR 255 per gallon. HFRS 2P, SBS 262 per gallon. HFRS 238 per gallon.
This is Decker materials.
Decker materials 448 asphalt concrete intermediate type 1, $90 per ton. No bid for chip seal emulsion. This bid is from Highway LLC. No bid for asphalt. The only thing they actually bid on was cold mix, $145 per ton. Valley Asphalt Corp. 448 asphalt concrete intermediate type 1, $90 per ton. No bid for chip seal emulsion. That is all we have as far as bids are concerned. What we intend on doing is award, or actually doing a recommendation, putting it together for next week, and then we will have that before you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. We'll need just a moment to track down the bids for the 2 bridge projects. We're going to start with, let's list the one for the cost and run.
Yeah, we're gonna wait till 10, we had that on the schedule for 10:15, so we'll hold off to 10:15 to do the bid openings for the bridges. Amy, if you wanna handle some business for 10 minutes, rapid fire.
The 2 tabled resolutions are first from last week. Resolution 17325, a resolution approving submission of an application for the program year 2024 Community Development Block Grant Flex Program.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Resolution 17825, a resolution increasing appropriations to the 2024 CDBG Critical Infrastructure Program and the 2024 CDBG Allocation Program.
So moved.
Second. First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Resolution 18125, a resolution approving the payment of invoices to the Madison County Auditor.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Resolution approving the 2024 County Highway System Mileage Certification for Madison County, Ohio, as required by the Ohio Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Second. First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing Ken Copus to attend the CEAO Stormwater and Drainage Conference.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving the increase in appropriations to commission expense line, and this is to pay a bill for the Madison County Airport.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving an increase in appropriations to courthouse salaries expense line.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving the selection of Choice One Engineering to provide engineering services for the 2024 CDBG Critical Infrastructure Program in Mount Sterling.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
I added some details on this that weren't in the resolution that was sent to you. A resolution approving the Choice One cost proposal for engineering services related to the 2024 CDBG Critical Infrastructure Program in the village of Mount Sterling. This is the amount of $32,900. This is less than what they put in the application.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving a transfer of funds for the Madison County Sheriff's Office. This is a payment that we got for the insurance of a damaged cruiser, putting it back into the revenue line and transferring it to their vehicle acquisition line for them to use.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
A resolution approving 2025 travel requirements for the Madison County Department of Job and Family Services.
I would just request that we move it a week. We just got it yesterday and
Well, we could.
it's come up a few
Also,
times.
Robin's coming here.
Yeah, so I mean, on the policy, we talk about, you know, if we have policies asking people to follow them, we do request that.
No, we do.
There's requests that are made by noon, right on Friday.
Yeah.
So it just seems to be a common thing. I just,
It is.
We'll wait till next week then.
Okay, that's the 90 and 91 were both travel requests from that office.
Okay. We'll handle those next week.
Could we address it today?
Yeah. Good, I can mention that to her.
We could what? Mention that to Ron. She's been mentioned.
That's what I
It's
figured.
gonna get mentioned.
I figured you'd mentioned, I figured you'd mentioned it multiple times.
Yes. We had a conversation yesterday.
That's all I have.
Well, if you have a conversation already, I won't.
Yeah, and I sent out that reminder email.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient. That's a good point across.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it. Imagine the bridge. Take two.
waiting till 10:50.
Just some coffee. I don't think I need a third, guys. I think two is sufficient.
What you need to do is get
They need to give me an espresso machine. They're only $150. And there are some apparatus that are like $1,000.
Kids. They make those still.
No, one of those electric burners, which we're not allowed to have.
I thought about buying an espresso machine.
So what did they prescribe to, for this?
Ivermectin.
Lead pack? Huh?
You want some?
Ivermectin.
I started taking amoxicillin I had left over this morning. Not gonna do
They
it.
knocked it out in 3 days.
That's what I need. I'm going on week 4.
Remind,
Yeah.
remind.
Oh, you're standing so close to me.
Well, I think it's turned from a flu to
Just a lingering.
a sinus infection. I got it.
Been sick yet this winter. No. Don't do that. I don't get sick, and I don't intend to start now. I haven't missed a day of work since the 3rd grade.
Lame.
That looked like a D.
No.
That looked like a D.
Have you given, Ken, have you given any more thought to,
What's that?
the water on my place there?
Yes, actually, I
B.
drew up a
You did?
profile along Spring Valley.
So there's plans for.
Mess.
It would be a very, very deep cut. I mean, you have to run probably almost 2,000 feet to get, you know, to stay like
Mr.
that from
Collins,
that
we have you
tile.
on the agenda.
It's, you don't realize,
Skip
but
it out
that's,
now. I mean, if you want.
I realize.
Shirking your duties.
it's quite a,
I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah.
You know where it floods into the.
yeah.
That should be an easy fix.
It's fine, I have a time frame.
It kind of,
Come back up.
Yeah, we'll do the bid opening and then put you on real quick.
but he said,
and then you can.
you know, you were willing to pay for it. You could go ahead, you know,
Yeah, that should only take a couple
we
minutes.
could give permission and you can hire someone. Go ahead and do that if you had any contract.
All right, it is 10:15. This is the time set aside for the bid opening for the bridge.
Let's talk.
Possum Run and Deer Creek.
Thank you very much. We have one bidder for the bridge on Big Pine Circle. And that bidder is RB Jervis Contractors Incorporated, and their bid total is $624,186.30.
Can you repeat the name of the company?
RB Jergens Contractors Inc.
What was the engineer's estimate?
The estimate on that one is in the 360.
257,000.
Oh, so that won't.
So that one we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board as far as what we had asked for. Get to the other one real quick.
No, 3 times this up.
I thought it was 357.
That low
With
number
the
is
20%,
estimates, that was their actual
Our,
estimate.
200 and some, theirs was 6.
Let's see. On Big Plains, we're a little over Deer Creek. We have 2 bidders on this project. The first bidder is Eagle Bridge Company. Their bid total is $1,855,420.00. The second bid is from RB Jergens Contractors Incorporated, and their bid for this project is $1,760,883.04. So 4 cents. Engineer's estimate on this one was $1.6 million, so we're at least in the ballpark on this one. So we'll go back and talk about what funding's available and see what we think we can.
Both bridges have to be done about the same time, don't they, so you can get the paving done, or what?
Yes, we're trying to get both of these bridges done before the paving project, which we're talking about requesting to push to next year if we can't get these bridges done in time to pave yet this year. Because that window closes fairly quickly around the first part of November.
You couldn't do the one and then come back and,
It's theoretically possible that we could. We're also going to be doing, I think we've got 2 other bridges that are box culverts that our crews will be replacing this summer as well. So there's a lot of work to be done out there.
yeah, oh, I know.
It's going to be a big process. And so we'll see how what Brian has up his sleeve as far as possible funding goes, and see whether we can get that and get it rolling. The other one really is a much simpler. The one over at Possum Run is a much simpler project. It's basically a beam stack and a little bit of abutting work. I'm a little surprised by the number of things that it's, that's, I don't know whether it's the time frame, but we'll take a look at some different factors, and it won't take too long to get it back out, advertised again. we get a few revisions, and we'll see what ODOT says as well, as far as what might happen in the process.
Very good.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
All right. I'll make it quick. Because I have 10:30 video call, with a prospective business. So, I have a list of 3 or 4 items, nothing of action, everybody's ready now. First, as you may have read, last night, the new company will be taking over the Honeywell building.
Yeah.
D'Angeli Prodati. They will be making a more national announcement, the Select USA International event in DC that they have every year. So we'll be doing that in May. So obviously there's a press release out there, but they're asking that nothing be shared social media so they can make a bigger announcement in there. So we're excited for them to be there. We've been working on this project for about 5 months or so it's good to see it come to fruition. Just an update to the comp plan. We are still visiting different communities. Our last one we have a scheduled visit for is Canaan on March 3rd. We have some community or townships that have written back and said they want no changes, which is fine. And we probably have 1 or 2 more that we'll schedule meetings for and attend their township trustee meetings. I do want to make sure, just for the record, I know a couple weeks ago there were some comments about from the public, which I understand, people have their own self-interests. There was comments from the public saying nobody wants development. This was with Summerford Township, Lake Choctaw people were here. We've had 4 townships that do want development. They want to control development, have sensible and sustainable growth, but they want development. So just make sure, I want to reemphasize that when people say nobody wants development, or just understand that different people have different goals and aspirations for the different communities.
Is Summerford one that you've had a meeting with yet?
I'm sorry.
Is Summerford one that you've had?
We have not. I reached out to Jimmy and Ernie just to try to get on their agenda, and we have not been able to get in touch with them yet about getting on their agenda. We could just show up, obviously, which we may end up doing. You 2, I think we'll still have to go to is Union and Summerford. Yeah, but Deer Creek, we just had a meeting for Canaan on the 3rd of March, where we'll leave, so.
And Summerford does their own zone.
They do, but they follow the comp plan as much as they can unless they don't agree with it, basically. Last 2 items, I sent you all an intergovernmental agreement with Jefferson Township. Nick had a chance to review it. I talked to him this morning, everything looks good. Jefferson Township is for it. They passed it already. We aren't asking for any action today. Just take a last look at it. Basically, anything over 60% or 10 years would require a pilot of 7 cents per square foot for the term of that abatement. So the goal is to encourage less 60% in 10 years or less, but if they go over, then that pilot will kick in on either of those items. So everybody's in agreement on it, everybody likes it, and they're reworking an agreement with West Jeff to kind of mirror what we have here moving forward there as well.
So you'd like us to review this and take action next week?
Next week, yeah, no rush on this, yeah.
So my question is, the clause that allows them to amend it for any reason, does that weaken it? I mean, I think the point of this is to kind of state the position, state what's gonna happen if you enter into an agreement with the county. You've got this 7 cents per square foot, but this clause that says, let me see if I can find it.
I think so, yeah.
I think that would require everybody.
Yeah. It's 4A. I think it's in front of you, Brandon, if you want to pick a copy.
No, that's not it. It's not that the agreement can be amended, it's that the township can choose not to apply the 7%. or the 7-cent? I'm struggling to find it right now.
That's, I think it was anything. I know it says that if it's under that it's not required to. I think it's, I mean, exceptions, county shall have no obligation to require property owners to make compensation payments to the township fire department members of this agreement for any exemptions that do not either exceed 60% or exemption.
Oh, this is it, yeah, in Article 3, Section A, at the end, it says the township may waive application of this Article 3A altogether for any exemption, or the township may accept alternative compensation payments other than the 7-cent obligation for any property owner obtaining an exemption.
Yeah.
So to me, I mean, doesn't that weaken the strength of it? I mean.
It's the township, so the township, it's
gonna benefit them.
Yeah.
It's gonna benefit them?
What they're waiving is what would benefit them.
So why would they waive it? I mean, it's just in there just in case. I think it's more like if a game changer came in and they wanted additional amount per square foot, or they wanted to take a lesser amount because they understand this is a game changer type project, so they really wouldn't want to do.
Or they're offered something in lieu of.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm talking about is the negotiation with that business. You know, couldn't that business say, well, we know that you can, you don't have to go with the 7.
Can we say no? I mean, and it's up to the township too. I know what you're saying. I think it doesn't obligate us to do anything, right? So, I mean, they could say, well, the township says they can waive it, well, the township could say, well, we don't want to waive it, and then they just walk. It doesn't put anybody at a disadvantage, I don't see a negotiation. Personally, I don't know if anybody else views it differently.
Well, I think it's a negotiation tool for later down the road, to your point, that, you know, if there is a project, a game changer that comes in, you have some wiggle room there.
Based on the history of the it's very unlikely they ever would.
Yeah.
And we've seen situations though where like in it's a fire truck.
Right, exactly, and that's what I think, good point.
That's
So they can
service that
say,
size building.
right, or hey, we will, we'll pay you $200,000 in cash, and that's gonna be more than what the 7 cents obligation is, but it benefits the township more than what this would, and that's a case to waive it, but I think to waive something that would be less than what they would get would be foolish on their part.
Yeah, I don't think the township will be waiving this unless it's
And
a better deal for the township.
Right, and we have no ability to waive it on our end. I mean, the way you were.
And just to be clear, I wasn't concerned about the township waiving it. I was concerned about this as a tool for a business to try and strong arm the township or the county in negotiations.
We're not, but in my mind, the way I would negotiate is if they're trying to strong arm us, then that's not somebody I want to be in this community. We want a partner who would work with us, so we would just say do you follow this or.
So the fact that we have it, we can point to it and say, okay, you don't want to do it, then that's.
100%.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, and then the last thing, so this will come next week. Last thing I want to make sure, and again, it had to do with some of the, it wasn't proper for me to talk and kind of interject some thoughts, but I'm going to put on the website, and I'm going to talk to Tim about putting another section regarding abatements and tips and basically how they work, because there were some comments a couple weeks ago about how if there's a tip or abatement on one property, then it raises everybody else's taxes, and that's just not the case as well. So I'll make sure there's going to be an example of information, and then does a tip or abatement do this to another property owner, and dispel any kind of misinformation out there, misunderstandings about what abatements and tips do. As long as they're being used responsibly, they can be a tool to help with growth.
Yeah, I think a fact sheet and answering some frequently asked questions would be very helpful for the public.
Yep.
It's ironic you bring that up. I was just looking at some other county's websites, and that's a very common page.
Yeah.
Websites.
Yeah.
It's become a hot button topic for a lot of different communities.
So that's all I have. Appreciate the time. You know it's a little late. I got to hop on my 10:30.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciation. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Robin?
Good morning.
Morning.
Gentlemen. I process server that our agency has to push for annually.
So it's just the one?
Always is.
No, last year we had more than one and it made me nervous. I didn't know what to do.
Really?
Do I open it though? I feel like the
Yeah, you
commissioners opened it last time. So. There's a letter of inner since like the 80s. Apparently not one.
I'm surprised Chuck let you in with that thing.
It's here, I have it as a weapon here.
It's Amy's weapon.
Well, secret, they don't even go through our. So to Madison County Child Support Enforcement Agency from Douglas E. Crabb is bidding for our process server, for the Child Support Department attaches a bid proposal for the process server for 2025. It's unchanged from previous years that he has served in the position. Attachment 2 includes cost and delivery. The bid indicates 2 attempts in the county and adjacent counties, 1 attempt statewide. Please take note that prior to return of any paper, a brief report of attempts is filed with the child support recording that if service is difficult, I make multiple attempts on all paper until resources are exhausted, including computer programs and assistance with other courts and law enforcement agencies. He would be pleased to continue as our process server. He includes a resume and he talks about his career as a law enforcement officer in Madison County. His rates in county, $50 per a minimum of 3 attempts. Adjacent counties, $75 per a minimum of 3 attempts. Statewide, $85 per minimum of 3 attempts. And then his resume is included. I will say Doug Crabb has been our process server since.
Ours too. Prosecutor's office.
What are we gonna do? He retired.
He's very good at his job.
So I would like to make a motion to accept Doug Crabb's bid for the child support unit's process server. I don't know if that's the right Robert's rules. I hate Robert's rules, but I would like for us to accept it if possible.
We'll put a resolution together. Okay, well, we'll put a resolution together next week and accept that.
Okay.
Yep, we'll take that recommendation, we'll make the decision next week. Thank you.
Should I leave it with you though?
Yes, that would be great.
And the weapon?
And the weapon,
That's
definitely,
fine.
definitely
It's
the
a
weapon,
pretty weapon,
definitely the
thank
weapon. You don't need weapons.
That's right, I am a
This is the
weapon.
first time I've
Yeah.
had a chance to come before you since you
Fancy.
sat in the seat. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You sound sick.
I have been for like 3 weeks now. I'm getting
He's,
anxiety.
he's milking it.
He's a what?
Said he's milking it.
I haven't called off yet. Well, I did call sick.
Thanks, everybody.
Totally.
I spread it.
Right, I believe we now want to enter into executive session to consider the purchase of property. Yeah, I think that's it.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Dr. Sneak?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.